Welcome to 2014. Never before has the U.S. public been so cynical and suspicious of its own government. The leaders we have elected have failed us, but the people are finally waking up and looking for leaders outside the two-party system. This show is for people who agree with Thomas Jefferson when he said, "Dissension is the greatest form of patriotism." I'm Governor Jesse Ventura, and this is Off the Grid. To kick off 2014, here are my 5 stories big media doesn't want you to hear. Let's go to our Grid Command Center. My vigilant producer, Alex Logan. Hold on, Alex. I'll get to you in a second. Before we get to 5 stories, though, I want to welcome everybody to Off the Grid. Jesse Ventura, former governor of Minnesota, former mayor of Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, former United States Navy veteran. I am now off the grid. Why? It's the only way I can talk to you freely and speak my mind without government-run mainstream media getting in the way. I am truly off the grid. Now, Alex is not. The guy with me, he'll be pumping me full of information. He is back in the United States. But this gives me an opportunity to talk to you. You know, when I came out of office back in 2003, I was the hottest commodity on the planet. I got in bidding wars. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC all wanted me. I eventually signed with MSNBC. I was supposed to be on 5 nights a week. Did not happen. You know why? Because I opposed the war in Iraq. Because you have government-run media back there. If you're not on board with what the government wants you to talk about, you're not getting on. So what happened to Jesse Ventura when he didn't get on? Well, I was signed to a contract, 3 years. I could not do anything dealing with news, nothing with cable television, nothing with satellite TV. In other words, they taped my big mouth shut. Well, that is no more. Now that I'm on Ora TV, there's nobody upstairs telling me what I have to do on a show. You see that already. I've broken the script. We did the opening lines and I already cut it off and took control. Because Jesse Ventura controls his own destiny here. Bill O'Reilly can't do that. Hannity can't do that. They all get their stories from on high. They have to talk about what they're told to talk about, and don't let them tell you anything different. You've just seen me take over my show. Right now, Jesse Ventura, I'm in charge. Off the Grid is pure, uncensored. Jesse the Body Ventura, Jesse the Mind Ventura, Governor Jesse Ventura. I wear a lot of hats, but we're going to have some fun. Now let's go back to the United States of America, off the grid, to my man Alex. Alex, what do you got for me back there?
You're damn right, Governor. It's your show. We're all just living in it. All right, let's get to this countdown. Number 5, the rich got richer than ever. The richest people in the world got 241 billion richer in 2012. Their net worth skyrocketed to 1.9 trillion. Now that is just shy of the entire gross domestic product of Russia. But on the flip side, Governor, 18.2% of Americans did not have enough money to buy the food that they or their families needed at least once during last year.
It's the old cliche, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. I've already told people the way to do it, and I'll repeat it here. Abolish the income tax and go to a national sales tax. Here's my philosophy. Wealth isn't determined by what you make. It's determined by what you spend. If you make $1 million a year, but you live in a little studio apartment and you drive a beat-up Volkswagen, you're hardly living like a millionaire, so why should you be taxed like one? Now, if you make $1 million or whatever and you buy the penthouse and you buy a Mercedes and you buy a yacht, well then you're living like a millionaire and you'll be taxed accordingly. Imagine that, all the workers out there. You would get to take home that number on your pay stub that you don't even know what it is. You'd get to take that home because you would decide what you were paying taxes on by what you bought. Now, what that also does is this. It makes you the citizen number 1, the government number 2, which is what our forefathers had in mind when they created our country. We're the boss. We, the people, are the boss. Alex, back to you.
Number 4 on our list is the war on free speech. All right, now this story is going to be about Phil Robertson of Duck Dynasty. He told GQ magazine, start with homosexual behavior and just morph out from there. Bestiality, sleeping around with this woman and that, they won't inherit the kingdom of God. Don't deceive yourself, it's not right.
I think my friend Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top ought to sue him for trying to look like him. What he said was wrong, but I do agree with his right to say it. You know, remember this about free speech. Free speech is not there to protect popular speech because popular speech does not need protecting. It's there to protect unpopular speech, and you as an individual can disregard that unpopular speech. But to start censoring people because they say unpopular things, well, then you end up like Jesse Ventura with the show on Off the Grid, because you're not allowed up in the United States because they censor you. They censor your free speech. So you have to end up going off the grid down here in order to broadcast back to East Berlin. I'm sorry, the United States. I'm a huge advocate of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. I'm a huge advocate of free speech. I don't give a rat's ass about Duck Dynasty or those guys. Like I said, I will tell you this, that when I was governor of Minnesota, I worked all 4 years to get equal rights for gay partners, to where the government would pay and give them the equal benefits to heterosexual partnership. I got it done at the end of my 4 years as governor. Guess what? The very next contract that came up, that was the first thing the Democrats bargained back to the Republicans. They lost it that quick. I'll tell you the reason that I feel so strongly about gay rights, since we're on that and it's part of free speech. I feel so strongly about it because years ago in the world of pro wrestling, I had a friend of mine who was gay in pro wrestling, and he had a partner, and they had been together for 25 years. They were as married as any hetero couple in the wrestling business. But here's what got to me. When my friend's partner got ill, he could not go to the hospital and sit bedside in intensive care, because the hospital rules stated spouse or next of kin. And in the case of gay people, you're neither. So therefore, at that point, I said, this is just plain cruel. Who is the government or anyone else to tell you who to fall in love with? And so as far as free speech goes, I will stand behind the Duck Dynasty people to be able to say what they say, even though I vehemently disagree with them. And you wouldn't catch me watching that show if somebody made me. There's nobody on the planet who could make Jesse the Body Ventura watch that show. Like I said, I'll stick to Billy Gibbons and ZZ Top any day. All right, Alex, back in the United States of America, otherwise known as East Berlin, what's going on back there?
Number 3 on our countdown, the government calls it quits. I'm just going to throw it right to you, Governor. I want to hear your thoughts right off the top. What did you think of the government shutdown in October?
Well, thanks, Alex. The government shutdown was despicable. It was a classic example of the two political parties putting their party before the country. If October 15th showed up in the private sector and you didn't have the job done, guess what? You'd get fired, wouldn't you? In the private sector, you would get fired. There would be no excuses allowed. The same has to hold true for this Congress and these elected officials. They need to be fired. That's right, they need to be voted out of office. Clearly they couldn't get the job done. Clearly they put their parties ahead of the country in not doing their jobs the way they're supposed to. There should be no issue on the planet that would require the government to shut down. The lemmings of the United States usually have a memory of about 60 to 90 days, and then they forget all these transgressions that have gone on. Now they're all singing Kumbaya. You know why they're doing that, Alex? They're doing it because they saw their approval ratings go under 10%. Now, that alone should tell you, how could anyone get reelected if 9 out of 10 people don't like you? What about us, the taxpayers? We're the bosses. Why do we have to pay our full taxes for those 16 days the government was shut down? We shouldn't have to pay taxes, our full taxes. They weren't providing all the services for us. But as I know, we're running out of time, and you know, I only am allotted so much of satellite here before it'll shut down when you're off the grid. I want to also encourage people out there, send emails, communicate with me through Alex, because through those communications, ask Jesse. Ask Jesse, and I'll do my best to answer them on the air. Alex, what else we got? Am I doing okay?
Well, tomorrow our Off the Grid countdown continues. What are the top stories the government doesn't want you talking about? That's on the docket for tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. Back to you, Jesse.
You can follow me on Twitter at GovJVentura, and remember, of course, stay vigilant. I got in bidding wars. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC all wanted me. I eventually signed with MSNBC. I was supposed to be on 5 nights a week. Did not happen. You know why? Because I oppose the war in Iraq. Because you have government-run media back there. If you're not on board with what the government wants you to talk about, welcome to 2014. Never before has the U.S. public been so cynical and suspicious of its own government. The leaders we have elected have failed us, but the people are finally waking up and looking for leaders outside the two-party system. This show is for people who agree with Thomas Jefferson when he said, "Dissension is the greatest form of peace," and speak my mind without government-run mainstream media getting in the way. I am truly off the grid. Now, Alex is not. The guy with me, he'll be pumping me full of information. He is back in the United States. But this gives me an opportunity to talk to you. You know, when I came out of office back in 2003, I was the hottest commodity on the planet. Alex Logan, hold on, Alex. I'll get to you in a second. Before we get to 5 stories, though, I want to welcome everybody to Off the Grid. Jesse Ventura, former governor of Minnesota, former mayor of Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, former United States Navy veteran. I am now off the grid. Why? It's the only way I can talk to you freely. Patriotism. I'm Governor Jesse Ventura, and this is Off the Grid. To kick off 2014, here are my 5 stories big media doesn't want you to hear. Let's go to our Grid Command Center. My vigilant producer